all the judges appreciate the hard work everyone put into their business plans and presentations today. We decided with a little mini format what we're going to do is we call up the finalists sort of in ascending order. We'll give a little bit of feedback for each of the teams, and then we'll all say a little something about the number one finalist. So the fifth place was Serious Lighting. So one of the things you always learn in these endeavors is it's good to have people who know something about the space, and it's bad to have someone who knows something about the space. And we have some experience in this particular space, maybe closer than you even wish. And so the lessons learned here, I think, is you put together your plan, which overall, it provided a high-level sort of explanation of how these shared models work. But there's an awful lot of scar tissue over the last 5 years. Even if you look in other clean energy programs, they're very similar types of models, and you have to, I think, you spend a little bit more time before you embark on your marketing channel activities on looking at what worked and what didn't work. I think for the challenge for this plan in your company is it's very difficult to differentiate yourself. Maybe because you live in Texas and you have some access to the Dean here, that's a good start. But you look at some of those big competitors you highlighted, if it was a real big market, they're vultures. They're going to go after it, and staying under the radar is a very difficult thing to do. So I think the feedback from the judges basically was, you go beyond sort of the high level, this is why this might be a good idea, and really dig into how are we going to win and how are we going to sustain a differentiation that allows us to be competitive in a market that's so big and has lots of large incumbents. But it was a good presentation. We wish you guys best of luck. Thank you.
Okay, next runner-up is Scout Set. Hello? Wow. So, first of all, great idea. I know a little bit about the market. Actually, I had just a conversation with someone recently that said that, Coach, it's a big problem. You're right on with identifying that. A lot of credibility because of your backgrounds. You know what you're talking about. We think that the business plan was a little heavy. You can kill people with that business plan. Now, but literally, this was the longest business plan of all. Okay, so that means you put a lot of all time. Okay. No, well, maybe yeah. First of all, what it means is you put a lot of work on it, and that doesn't get lost on us. And I understand it. I wrote my own, and they were pretty long as well. Not quite as accomplished, but pretty long. But you put a lot of work in it. You definitely understand what you're talking about, understand what the market looks like. And what happens when you write one that's that long is that it doesn't get read in its entirety. So you're kind of rolling the dice on what it is we're going to actually read. Because 80 pages, it's not going to happen. So there may be things in there that may have been important that we ended up not reading. If you had it in 20 pages, which actually is more work, color down to 20. We may have read those 20 then, and those are the ones you want us to read about. So that's a good and a bad, but I would say err on the caution of making it shorter and show your work, which you clearly did. Maybe if you absolutely have to in appendices, and I know you did that. Try to structure it. What we think we are not quite sure on is the overall market size. And understand that you've got a big number, and I think that's the overall market, maybe sports market in colleges. but even just doing a simple math got us to a much smaller number, $10,000 for 2,800 schools. Certainly not 36 billion. So we kind of we should at least be in the right kind of frame there, and that was one that maybe detracted a little bit. And lastly, just on the concept, not everyone was sold on the ability to take the model that exists currently on the relationships and transfer that into the overall open market and have everyone participate in it, because it's a buddy system, it's kind of a fraternity, and there was a little bit of question on whether that's actually doable or not. But in all its totality, a great idea. It is coming. I believe that in some form, and we all agree on that, in some form this information is not going to be shared by tapes or DVDs pretty soon. So I think there's still a lot of potential in there. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Third place is International Student Assistance. So you guys did a great job on the plan and the presentation. I think it's a big idea. I think it's a bigger idea than you guys maybe actually are envisioning here. It's, just focusing on Indian students, just focusing on even on student debt, I think is a good start, but I think there's actually something much bigger here. And if you look at, there are a lot of vehicles out there where people do package up different types of loans for various reasons and are able to be very successful at that. So we applaud you on the idea and kind of finding an interesting niche to start from, but it does seem like there's a bigger idea. A couple of minor things I think that would be good here is we talked about this. I asked this question a little bit as far as structuring the annual partnerships or things like that. I would find someone that's done this in other finance categories and figure out how to structure those, because I think you could go bigger much faster and take the whole market before anybody else came in. So I think there are people out there that can give you advice on that, as well as one thing. If I look at this as a personal investor, I would look at this in a way where I would love to see you guys apply some leverage to the portfolio and juice my returns a little bit, which I think is very good. But you guys did a great job.
The runner-up was Slick. I think the judges felt that you did an excellent job on your presentation and your report, and you certainly assembled a very, very credible and great team. I think the one thing I think we'd like you to focus on is instead of spending as much time on the technology, maybe sometimes also look at some of the areas that you might apply, because the camera area is a very, very competitive and difficult area, and maybe it sounds like just a wonderful technology that plays out as you think and get your patents. But we think there may be some other areas that are maybe niche areas that might be more successful than maybe going to more in the camera, where there's some very formidable competitors. But overall, very, very well done.
And by the process of elimination, the carpools. As we said in the comments, as we all, I think, had everyone want to say a few words, but this is it's a big idea, and there's lots of parallels for potential to build big businesses here. I'm sure that's what you all see, but it's also one where if that you're really serious about it, it's one you need to go in with your eyes wide open, because we are all somewhat benefit from our own experiences, but sometimes when you try to apply those experiences to something like this, it's not always necessarily the same situation. And so Tom's comments about sort of how much money is required to sort of get into this business and sustain growth and to win eyeballs, and you know, it's a big project. And so I think as you approach it that way, and you think about the steps and the partnerships you try to develop early on, you know, it'll be a fun one to watch. But you put together a very good plan, and it was very thoughtful. The presentation was quite good, and you know, you're all very deserving.
So just real quick, I voted for you guys to be first. Nothing against the other ones, but because I like all the other ones. But the reason I really voted for you guys is because I think it was a big idea, and as a venture investor, I have to put a lot of money to work. So on some of the other ones, I just couldn't, from my point of view, the lens that I look at these things through, I couldn't put enough money to work. I think you guys do need to raise a bunch of money, and you need to, you know, build some other parts of your team here. But if you were successful, this is going to be a great big outcome.
And I think from the business plan, the written plan number one, I think it was already a pretty good start, because I think, at least in my playbook, it was the best of the written business plans. And just as the presentation, you have a good handle on integrating graphics with the concept, getting the point across, being to the point, and fairly short. I mean, it was maybe 20 pages or so, but we were able to understand it. There are things that we probably don't need to understand in this type of format, and so they weren't in there. But we weren't worried about that information not being retrievable at some point. So you were able to convey a sense of information, a level of information that led us to believe that you know more about it if you were to ask. And that's the appropriate amount of information. So well done on the execution here as well. So I'm going to let Joe say one last word, and then he goes to say so.
Well, I just echo all the comments. Good job.
On behalf of all the sponsors here today, I want to say thanks, you guys, and all the teams. All of our teams will be walking out of here as soon as we get through the SMU red tape with hundreds of thousands of dollars, in, hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of, in cash and prizes. But there are at least a couple of 3 zeros on here for you guys to help you get started with a wonderful idea. Very well put together, very well presented. So congratulations, guys.